In this video, we are going to talk all things wedding DJs, how to book a wedding DJ, what to ask, how to work with them, how to make it be what you want it to be. For those of you just stumbling on this video, hi, my name is Natalie. I'm an international DJ, wedding expert, and the creator of the Wedding Lab, where I help couples just like you plan their dream wedding on any budget by unlocking the secrets of the wedding industry. If you're somebody who is planning a wedding, or you're helping somebody plan a wedding, or you're an aspiring wedding professional, don't forget to like and subscribe this video, because every Wednesday at the same time and same place, you'll get new videos about different tips and tricks of how to plan a wedding. For today, we are going to talk about wedding DJs and some information if it's a band. It's focused on DJs, but you'll use a lot of it for if you're having a band as well. And we're going to talk about all of the myths, all of the stuff that's actually important, and the things that people miss along the way. And then I'm going to talk about the logistics of things versus the music. So, first and foremost, the biggest question that there is about all over the internet, all over Reddit, is price. People are upset because the prices are so different. You don't know how to tell how much it's going to cost to have a wedding DJ. And then they're also upset because somewhere along the line, they're getting people who are upcharging because it's a wedding. So I want to talk about that first. If somebody's upcharging you because it's a wedding, you don't want to work with them. That's not typical. What is typical is that a wedding is longer in time than a corporate event and a birthday party. And so because of that, you might need more hours, because a base package for a corporate event might be 4 or 5 hours, but a wedding is typically at least 6. So you might need extra time on the front or back end to be able to get everything that you need, which is just overtime. That's normal. If a corporate event has a whole award ceremony that is happening before their dinner or at a cocktail hour, and they add all those things, they're also going to get charged the overtime, because the base price is just for what it is. Now, also what happens with a wedding that is sometimes more money is the ceremony. For example, if you are getting married at a country club and your ceremony is in the middle of the golf course, so you need sound and microphone for the middle of the golf course, then your cocktail hour is on the patio by the pool, and then your dinner and dancing is going to be in a tent somewhere else. That's 3 different places that you have to set up. And in a situation like that, sometimes it's too far to be carrying the same speakers and just placing them in different areas. So you do need extra equipment. So depending on what the needs are, that might be an upcharge. Sometimes people charge extra for a ceremony for extra equipment, and sometimes people just add on the extra time that they need. That's different for everybody. So one thing that you want to make sure that you have when you go into any conversation with a DJ or a band leader is, what time does your ceremony start? Where, you don't have to know all of it for certain, but you have to have some idea of it. So what time does your ceremony start, and where is everything? Is the ceremony and the cocktail hour and the dinner and dancing all in one spot, or is it spread out over the course of places? Are you having your ceremony at a place of worship so you don't need anything from the DJ or the band, and it doesn't start till cocktail hour? That's important to know too. So that's the first thing that you want to know. Then let's talk about price. The prices range depending on market, skill level, if you're working with somebody who has a company versus a solo artist, things like that. So I'm going to give you the best range that I can give you based on a mid to high wedding market. I work and live in Chicago. I work all over the place, but I live in Chicago, and I'm very familiar with the Chicago market. And my company provides DJs in Chicago, Detroit, Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Miami and all over Florida, Boston and New York, all of New England, Rhode Island, all the areas in New England, and Charlotte. So all of those places are anywhere from mid to high market, meaning there's a big population of younger people who are getting married in the age range of getting married, and they're having weddings there. So the pricing for that can range from, and I'm starting with a company. If you're hiring a DJ company who's dedicated their livelihood to being able to do high quality luxury events like weddings and corporate events and things like that, and they have the insurance to back what you're trying to do, they have the people the resources to have somebody on call in case something happens. They have extra speakers in case something goes out. They have all of those things in the event of an emergency, because it's a big company versus somebody who's just a solo artist, which there's nothing wrong with a solo artist. Everybody starts somewhere. But when you're looking at a wedding and insurance and all those things, like, we're starting with the company from the bottom of the range. The bottom of the range for a company with reviews, who's established and has DJs who know how to show up and do a wedding, the minimum is about $1,650, and that's for the lower end. The higher end of that is $5,000. Me personally, if I'm going to be the one that's DJing the wedding, I'm usually around $3,000. And if you're having somebody that I trained, or I have a group of people going, or I have musicians coming with me to have music fusion, saxophone players, electric violinists, things like that, it's going to be a little bit higher. And all of that range, that $1,650 to $5,000, is right before you start getting into like the bigger names and the celebrity DJs. $4,000 to $5,000, you start getting into that for the you can start getting into that. So that's what the price range is for a DJ who's doing live events. That doesn't mean that if you're in a very small market, or you're in a market but you know somebody who's a solo artist who has all the equipment and you trust them and they do weddings a lot, or they did your friend's wedding or something like that, that doesn't mean that you can't get that for cheaper. But what I'm talking about is the average. The average range, $1,650 to $5,000, and it's vast in there. It depends on your contract times as well. Usually it's a base. It's not because it's a wedding. It's a base of somewhere between 4, 5, or 6 hours. And then anything beyond that, you're going to have to pay overtime, which is normal. So pause there, and we're going to pivot a little bit, and we're going to talk about what questions you need when you start interviewing and vetting DJs. So the first thing that you want to ask them is what the process is like if I book with you today until the day of the wedding. I want to know what the process is like. If you were to hire me, the process would be like this. You would pay a 20% non-refundable deposit to book the date. Everything else is refundable, and the rest of the money is due 2 weeks before the wedding. Nobody's going to bother you. You can make payments, or you can pay it all at once, or however you want to do it, but nobody's going to bother you unless we get 2 weeks up to the wedding and there's still money that's due. Then immediately upon getting your deposit paid and the contract signed, you're going to get access to an online portal where you'll have your own login, and you can go in there. Your wedding planner, if you have a wedding planner, can log in and do that as well. And you'll be able to, it'll ask you a lot of questions about the logistics and the music of your wedding. It'll ask you what the timeline is so far. It'll ask you how you want to be announced as a married couple when you're doing your grand entrance. It'll ask you what songs you need for the cake cutting, the first dance, any milestone moments. And it'll guide you through the process so that it'll be things that some of them you thought of and some of them you didn't. Some of them you'll use and some of them you won't. But it'll give you an overall picture of the information that you need, and you can fill that out as you go. Then about 2 to 3 months prior to the wedding, we have our big production call. So that's where we sit together 60 to 90 minutes, usually over the phone, and we go through everything, the timeline, what you have so far. We put all the pieces together, what you have so far, and we add music to those moments. That's where you kind of get to take a breath of fresh air and think, oh my gosh, I see it. It's all coming together and I get it. So we'll talk everything through the timing, the officiant, the sound check, all the way through the ceremony, the processional song, the wedding march, the recessional. How about what do you want to hear at the cocktail hour and the dinner, your grand entrance, how are we doing this, how are we doing that, all the way through what music you like, what's on your must playlist and your do not playlist, what kind of artist do you like, what's your inspiration, what do you want your last song to be. All that information is on that big production call. Some people decide they don't want to fill anything out until they talk to me and have that call. Some people want to have it all in there and be ready to do it. All I say is either's fine with me, but just make sure that you leave a little bit of wiggle room. Don't have it completely decided, because I might be able to help change things around a little bit to make sure that we get what you want. And so it's better to have some idea of what you want, but not to be so stuck in the plan yet that we can't really manipulate it into make sure that you're getting what you want and the result that you want. Then after we're done with that call, you'll walk away with an open item list of things that you need to come up with and do before the wedding. And then about 2 weeks before the wedding, we'll do a quick check-in, make sure all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. If we need to have another call, we will. If we don't, we won't. And then I'll show up at the wedding. Whatever time I'm supposed to be there, I'll let you know. And I'll let you know how long I need to set up. And then we'll have our sound check with the officiant and start the process of the whole wedding. That's what it's like to work with me. That's what anybody you talk to should be able to explain that to you as simply as I just did. It's a very simple process. This is how we do it, and this is what we need. So if you have any questions about that, be sure to comment below and I'll try to answer them as I go. But then the other part that you want to know is what time. You want to make sure your times are right, because the venue decides when the end of the night is. You want to make sure that the end of the time for the DJ ends up with that, but you also want to make sure that the photographer, who typically ends a lot earlier than everybody else because they're there earlier and they don't need all the pictures of the dance floor look drunker and sweatier as they go. So you just really need 20 to 30 solid minutes of dancing for the photographer to get what they need. But you want to make sure that you align the timeline with that, because otherwise you're going to be asking, what you don't want to happen is to be in a position where you have to beg the photographer to stay an extra half an hour, pay a whole bunch of overtime because they haven't gotten the first dance yet because the timeline is all screwed up. So you don't want that. And the DJ makes sure that everything's on time as well. If you don't have a wedding planner, the DJ and the photographer will work together to make sure that everything is going smoothly. If you have a wedding planner, the wedding planner will also be in on that. So you want to make sure that everybody's working closely together and everybody's good and all the times are correct. You also want to ask a couple of questions about their DJing experience. It's not so much the music that they are used to playing, because most wedding DJs are an open format DJ. What that means is they can play to anybody. They can play to all ages and races and demographics and situations, and they have enough knowledge in all the genres to be able to look at a room and say, okay, let's start here and go there. And they can take the inspiration music that you send them that you like and start with that and then drive with that, but then add things in as they go based on what the room is like. So that's what an open format DJ is. So what you want to ask them is, what is their process? How do they do the last song of the night? How do they decide what music to play? What do they wish more people knew about hiring a DJ? Because they'll be open with you and give you that information. But the thing you want to remember is it's not just music coming to play. If it was music coming to play, then they would not come and they would not start until right before the dancing. You have somebody that's setting up your sound for your ceremony, doing the audio for that. They're playing music throughout the cocktail hour and the dinner, making sure that all the toasts are going well, making sure that all the timeline is on time and everybody's working together properly, and that the photographer is ready when you do the first dance and all that good stuff. And then 80% of their job is done by the time they get to the part where they're playing music as for the dance floor. So you just want to make sure that you have all that information set. You also want to make sure that they're able to run an event and that they have the organizational skills, which you can tell by talking to them, if they have the capability of listening to you and bringing your vision to life, because that's the most important part. You don't need the best DJ. You need the person who can be who's a good DJ, is a good listener, and knows how to solve what you're trying to do and bring that to fruition. And you do that by talking to them. A good way to find a DJ is to ask other vendors. If you don't know, ask other people who have gotten married if they liked working with their DJ or not. Ask the venue if they have a preferred vendor list, and you can usually find a couple of good DJs on there. Look at the reviews, but look at the reviews after you pick a handful of DJs from that, because the review game, especially with weddings, isn't really on the up and up. It is partially, so they matter, but they don't. That's not a good way to find a DJ because a lot of it is staged. So what you want to do is you want to find a handful, maybe 3 to 5 DJ companies that you're interested in. Talk to them, figure out what you like and what you don't like, and then look at their reviews and see if the things that people are saying in the reviews are aligned with what you're trying to do. So it's more than just a dance party at the end. It's that. The other thing that you want to know about when you're talking to a DJ is what time does their contract start? So obviously the base package in most cases starts with an hourly amount. So it's 4, 5, or 6 hours. What time does that start? If your ceremony starts at 5 o'clock, what am I paying for? Am I paying for the half hour before for the sound check and the prelude music? And then when the ceremony starts, am I paying for however much time it takes you to set up? How does that work? I can tell you with me, and everybody's different, so you have to ask this question. My contract starts at the time your ceremony starts. So if your ceremony starts at 5 o'clock, my time starts getting calculated at 5 o'clock. But what that includes is a half hour prior of prelude music and a sound check. So if your officiant is going to get there, if your ceremony starts at 5, your 5-hour minimum starts getting calculated at 5, but that still includes 30 minutes of prelude music, and at 4:30 we'll do a sound check. So, and of course whatever time it takes for me to get set up. So you want to know all that information. And you do want to know a little bit about the music that they like, because they'll be really good at the music that they like as well. And so it doesn't have to be, so a lot of times people call and they're like, well, what kind of music do you like, and all that stuff, and that's not really helpful. What's helpful, it is helpful, kind of. It's helpful to know what they like because that's how they're going to steer it. What's more helpful is to know their process, how they read the room, what kind of music, like how you communicate the music that you like to them, and all of that. That's kind of the big deal. You also want to know if the MC is the same person. You want to know if that DJ is going to show up. If you call me and we do a call and you're saying, I want you to be my DJ, then I'm the person that shows up. However, I also have a company. So if you call me, I'll tell you, well, this is the DJ that's available, or you're getting this package, which is not going to be me, but it'll be my team. So that information I'm very clear about from the jump, but sometimes you have to be careful with that, because a lot of times people will book you, or you'll book them, and it'll be in their contract that you're just booking them, but whoever will show up. But sometimes people don't care about that, but some people want to connect with the person that's DJing their wedding. So that's a personal preference. And the last thing that I want to talk about today is what is in the contract. So you want to ask your DJ, what's in the contract? Does the venue provide a table, or do you bring a table and a big setup? In my case, if it's the basic package, then the venue provides the table. You order a linen because we'll want to make sure that it matches. I don't want to bring a white linen that's not the right color white, and then it clashes with your whole decor. So you would order an extra linen and cover the table. The venue would provide the table. They typically don't charge for that. And then I would set up on that setup. If you wanted the whole shebang, you wanted the lights and the show and the stage and all that stuff, then that's something we could talk about too, but that's just a little bit different. So make sure you ask what they're coming to the table with. Are you coming to the table with lights? Do I have to pay extra if I want lights? How many sound systems? Like, how do we do this? What do you need from me and from the venue to set that up? And then you also want to ask about vendor meals. Most of the time, the vendors have a vendor meal calculated into their contract. For me, if it's myself and one other person, like a second, then I require that it's in the contract that we get a vendor meal. If it's 3 or more, then I take care of the meal for the team. So that's important to know, because if you're getting a 16-piece band and they all require a vendor meal, that's going to be even more money than you're paying out of the pocket that you didn't know about extra. So you want to make sure that you have all that information. So if I were to have myself and my second, a vendor meal would be required in the contract. 3 people or more means if my team gets sent out to you, not if you add a musician to do a music fusion style, because usually the musician wouldn't come till later. It just depends on how long everybody's there. Same thing with a photo booth. It depends on how long everybody's there. If it makes sense and they need food, then they need food. And if they come later, they probably won't. So you just want to have a good idea of how much food you're paying for, what you need to have, what I's to dot and what T's to cross as far as tables and where to get set up at the venue and what you need from the venue and all of that. And then you should be good. Hopefully this information has given you at least some starting point of what to look for when you're trying to book a DJ for your wedding. If you're looking to book a DJ or a band for your wedding in the Midwest, please use my calendar link below and I'd be happy to talk to you, do a free consultation. If you're looking for a DJ anywhere else, I can probably help with that too. Go ahead and email me. And also, if you are stuck on music, feel free to check out my link below and you can get some playlists. And last but certainly not least, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more tips and tricks on planning your dream wedding. Thank you for your time today. Congratulations on your engagement, and I'll see you on the dance floor.